most good, well-written, entertaining, well-paced movies are accessible. It's not like, oh, I couldn't pick up on the subtext, so I decided to. That's not what dumb people say. Dumb people say
Yeah, it's
yummy
the opposite of
explosion, slop
inclusion.
slop.
Yeah,
Some
it's
people
the
go watch
opposite of
more
inclusion.
Transformers movies still.
Right. They watch the simpler stuff.
I think that they
I would
watch literally
suspect.
everything. Like they watch complicated things simply.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I would appreciate that. And then they go to YouTube, and someone tells them why they should hate it.
They're out here watching
$5 from Zetsway.
Glass Onion.
$5 from Zetsway to say I agree with mustachioed Chris Reagan. Thank you for the.
That's true. Thanks. That's the new one, but it tracks.
I think you're right. They do watch it
right?
simply,
And then I can reply to the fucking. Yeah. Like.
Yeah. No, we're gonna go to Socrates right now.
Yeah. After him,
Alright.
I said.
Thank you. Yeah, so I mean, what Tuna was saying, that it's like there's something people are identifying as woke. This is the issue. This is the really frustrating thing with engaging with, honestly, most consumers in general, especially right-wing consumers of media, is that there's so little media literacy and like some kind of real personal analysis. Like they're not going to therapy, so we have to psychoanalyze what the fuck they're trying to say. They're just like, I didn't like this thing, it sucks now, and it's woke, and I hate it. And we're like, okay, let's try to find some words to express what it is that you're trying to say. What didn't you like about it? Like, you have to sit them down and do a survey and try to extract what the fuck it is they're even talking about. So let's take just like refocus this and look at something that's like probably the wokest thing ever. The movie Get Out. Director Jordan Peele. There's like no woker, like just cut and dry. This is like probably the archetype of what you would imagine if you were to put together a woke film. It's like being a minority in America and like being around white people is literally a horror movie. That's the premise. Is that being around like an affluent white family as a black dude who's like dating their white daughter is a fucking horror movie. But
it's also fetishized at the same time, right? Like,
sure,
it's both
exactly,
things. Yeah.
exactly, right? But people don't experience that movie, to my knowledge, as woke. Because first of all, it's really well written. It's a more affluent family, so maybe people can kind of distance themselves and say, oh, this is like a white liberal family that's pretending to be, nice to black people or whatever, but really
it doesn't look like me.
Yeah, exactly. So I think really what it is people are uncomfortable with being called out in a stupid way. So having somebody direct a criticism at you that is like not really like kind of nonsensical, not eloquent, doesn't actually tell you anything that you can use, that you feel like you could, as a caricature, write yourself of what you think, liberal people think, whatever,
I also
right?
think the thing with Get Out, right, is it was, and I think what makes it not receive almost any criticism from these circles, is that it was a story in and of itself.
Yep.
It didn't rely on other franchises. It didn't rely on other IPs.
Yeah, it was brand new,
it was a
creative thing.
on its own,
Yeah.
which again, I think that most people are fine with, right? If the problem becomes is when you have a franchise, you have an IP, you have a established lore and a world that is one way, and then suddenly, right, it becomes the focus changes.
Okay.
And
Get Out was
grabbing
Star Wars
onto that.
Episode 7.
So looking at Lord of the Rings. So Lord of the Rings, the original. I know we're just joking like our orcs black, but like I think that was to some degree Tolkien's worldview, not specifically like black people, but this idea that there's like this European imperial great society that's kind of crumbling with weaker rulers, and there's hordes of external people who are more barbaric coming in to invade. I think that is genuinely, like, scholars have looked at this, that was generally his more kind of reactionary worldview. And so it has these heroes of whatever this perspective is, and then you look at like the Amazon not good writing, not really true to the source material, but it's also specifically in a really dumb way, maybe trying to go against whatever that reactionary viewpoint was saying. And it's saying like, oh no, the heroes who are elves and hobbits and whatever, some of them are like black or whatever. It's a really reductive attempt to try to shift anything political, because it's not using the structure of the story itself. I think maybe somebody said something like this, that it's taking our world politics instead of using the politics that are within that world itself. So it's like lazy writing that isn't transforming anything in terms of how we understand it. It's not using the sci-fi fantasy.
I think the problem with the Amazon show is that it was just poorly written. If you just take elves
it just
and
sucks.
black and you had a good written story, nobody would care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So
like what if it's a half human, half elf, right?
Yeah,
like
It doesn't matter. Like you
that
could
would
have
work.
a full elf that's
That would
black,
work.
and if the story's well written, nobody would care.
So my contention is not that like there's some like woke director somewhere and they're like, no, please let me do this thing, and they're like, oh, okay, and then they just like don't write it well or whatever. I think that the woke thing is like a thing that studios do as like an audience testing thing. They did some surveys. They see that their audience has these demographics, and they think that they can sell an inferior product by putting in some filler. And they think if we have some kind of rah around some current political topic, and we seem like the good guys, and people can feel good about it, then they can sell some more shit. Okay, this is what it is.
That I would agree with.
Starbucks,
woke. Go ahead.
Starbucks costs a lot for some coffee, and it's not like the best coffee in the world. But what do?
Nope.
1% of the money that you spend on that coffee goes to make sure that the kids who are picking the coffee beans get a really good life, and it's environmental, and it's it's all these good things. And so maybe it costs a little bit more, but you get to be a good person consuming this media.
Woke get paid.
Yeah. And so it's filler that you put into the products, that you can have worse products, but it makes you feel good that you're a good person consuming them. And everyone wants to feel good when they're lying on the couch, half a bag of Doritos spilled on them.
For 1 week a year,
because
really
if
good.
the only reason that people
Super
feel
chatting
good,
to me $5 so we can hit my goal, right? We're at 8 out of 15. Just a few more dollars, gang. A few more super chats of $5. And we can have that Halloween costume stream. That would make you feel.
I feel
good.
like
Anyway.
Yeah, for example, like if you super chatted that I hadn't played a fucking game that's not out, you idiot.
Oh my god.
So I think
I think that the only reason
Write it in
I
your
think
book
that
of
the only-
grudges, Parallax, and just you can hash
Like,
it
if
out. in
someone
chat.
I
wanted
just
to
want to
offer-
reply when someone talks shit to me, Wick. Be a good moderator.
I think
Well, go ahead, Power. Go ahead.
I think that there may be an issue of what he was saying, where people are using like diversity or minority representation in place of like to sell an inferior product.
Monetization.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Monetization,
that in of
yep.
itself isn't a problem with like wokeness and diversity. That's a problem with like
No.
laziness.
We're saying I think some people would claim that process of using the fundamental belief of diversity, equality, and inclusion for monetization use so they can sell a product is woke.
I think it's called
That's what I think.
fetishization
You can-
as well.
Yeah.
It's
like
like
capitalism.
monetize,
Is that Wombat? Oh shit, I know
you can
that.
Hello.
monetize diversity.
I am a wombat. I identify as a wombat, and
Yeah.
to honor my Australian heritage, my pronouns are I and him.
$5 from Zesway. Gotta get back to work, but there's more towards costume stream. Thank you for the $5 and thank you. Do you have any last words you want to say before you go, Zesway?
Nope. Just no. Have a good one, everyone. Have fun. Bye.
Hey, have a great day.
Later, Brody.
And $2 from another new account. Paracant, look up a YouTube playthrough skill issue.
Because they don't exist, you fucking idiot. The game's not out.
The game is
It
out.
is kinda out.
It is out. Like
No, it's
people
not.
are
It comes
playing
out in
the
2
game
days.
right
It comes
now.
out on the 31st.
People in
I
the
would
game
know.
are out.
I already bought it.
And
Somebody's got it.
and
People-
there is promo that
individuals
is being
in social
made by
individuals in
creators
access
outside.
Yeah.
media.
No,
Wiki's
there's
already
no
full.
playthroughs.
Individuals,
There are no
individuals
playthroughs of
in
the game.
access media Well, they
no
can't
no
release
signs
any
of it.
playthroughs
Okay,
yet.
okay,
They
no
can't
enough.
release any
Enough.
playthroughs yet because of NDA.
Enough.
But there are
This
individuals
isn't
who
the
have been given
Parallax
copies of
Grudges
this game
stream.
and have played through it.
This isn't the Parallax Grudges stream, okay? If you have a problem with what he said, you can take it up with him another day. We are here to talk about.
Yeah,
the
why don't you
bigger
schedule that? Let's
issue.
fucking do it.
If he wants
Let's
to come on,
go.
I don't.
No, I mean anyone. Fucking free for all.
Parallax versus the
Yeah,
world.
you would like that, wouldn't you? You would
Figure
like
it out
that, wouldn't
next
you?
week.
It'd be like,
But we'll
20
figure that out
chippers
later.
versus
I want to
Parallax.
discuss the actual topic at hand, which is
Yeah, please.
entertainment, media, video games, movies, etc., and how they interact with politics and how they interact with wokeness, and whether that improves or hinders or is neutral to the products themselves. And I think that,
Yeah.
like, again, I stand by. I have not yet heard a compelling reason to change my stance on this.
Well,
Is
wait.
that
Well, so here's an.
I
Oh, sorry.
can we
I
hear?
want to hear
Wick?
the stance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let Wick do like the full sentence of his stance so that you can.
Okay,
actually
let Wick
respond.
go and then.
Okay. Yes, you can't bribe me to kick Parallax $50 and I'll kick him right now. Okay. Let's see. But my stance on this, sorry, I got distracted with money. My stance on this is
bullshit.
very simple, right?
It's not very free speech.
No,
No, it costs $50.
Right? Like, it's literally not free. It's $50.
freedom isn't
I got
free,
away.
Para.
But
The
here's
way
the
that
deal.
Twitch shoehorned this clear Jewish stereotype into this stream. Oh my god.
Okay, $5 from Zetsway to say, I'm pretty sure that guy thought Parallax was a guy who has never played the Dragon Age series, not specifically Veilguard. Maybe.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, no.
But here's the thing. My stance here, and I haven't heard a compelling argument against it, is that many studios, whether they be game, movie, or authorships, are trying to use their entertainment and products as a form of advocacy. I think a lot of them mean well, but I think it makes the products worse. And that's my stance here.
Okay, so what I was unfortunately interrupting you with. Let me. That's one question, and I think that's compelling. There's another piece of that maybe to add on, which is what's good for us. And I don't mean good for us in terms of like, oh, you know, this show really fucking sucks, but it's like hammering us on the face to not be racist and some dumb right. Okay, like actually like useful. So let's go back. Let's go back a little bit. You know, back to the future. Star Trek. Let's say Next Generation. I grew up on. It's an unbelievably woke show. It's fully automated
Morals
luxury
everywhere.
gay space communism. Right? There's no money.
Agreed.
There's no classes. Everybody has whatever they need to survive. And there's episodes tackling things like climate change, like, yes, racism, like non-binary people in society, societal roles, all of this stuff. It does so in a transformative way that looks at what the future can be and a hopeful thing for the future. So it's not like beating you over the head. Oh, you know, you're so evil, everything's doomed. It's saying things can be better. And it's something that lots of people grew up on and said, hey, like the world can be a better place. We can be good to each other. That's a really positive thing. And by the way, it made the product better. So that's my first volley.
True.
I would
Actually-
suggest
actually,
if you
wait,
agree with the morals, you won't notice them.
My
Yeah.
response to that would be simply that while that was something that Star Wars, I'm sorry, not Star Wars, Star Trek.
Star Trek.
Yes, my bad.
Millions of fans cry out in pain.
Yeah, the Next Generation was the best Star Trek, to be clear. Deep Space Nine might be a close second. But,
I like Deep Space Nine a little bit more, but yeah.
Fair enough, right? We can debate on that.
Next stream.
But yeah,
More of the feminist agenda.
But there is
Oh shit.
the way they did it, and the reason it was compelling was because it made sense within the concept.
Exactly.
Of the theme of the show.
In universe.
Story, right? It also, right? My least favorite episodes were the more preachy ones, right? Do you guys remember Star Trek 2? I think it was 2. The one where they went back in time
The
to
whales?
save the whale.
That's the best one. Are
That's
you
not
kidding
two.
me?
What are you talking about?
Let me guess,
Is
you
that
like
one?
Khan more than
Isn't
that?
to the Wrath of Khan?
No, the one where they save the whales is the best, and that was original series.
What? You think it's better
The
than
Mary
Wrath of
Socrates
Khan?
take, the one where they save the whales, is the
No,
best.
that
It's
was-
the
Wrath
best.
of Khan is
But that was
That
original
felt-
series.
That felt worse than the ones when Wrath of Khan, right? Am I thinking of the right Star Trek? Star Trek.
They're like, well, your nuclear
It's the wrong
whistles.
generation of Star
That's
Trek,
the one
but-
you're looking for.
Nuclear
Trek.
vessels. Yeah, they've got the cloaked
Nuclear
ship.
whistles.
It's so cool.
People
I
spend
don't
a
know,
lot
it
of
just-
time.
It felt
I think
worse than the story as a whole because it felt forced. Does that make
I think
sense?
that
Well, and
I think
can't
that
be
people
at that point.
I think
Very
that people
campy.
spend,
Yeah.
I think that people online spend a lot of time pointing out these quote unquote woke things that are bad. But like if you think about like I'm sure there's so much media out there that would be advocating for something and still good. I'm thinking of like Teen Titans episode where they tackled racism using
God.
using Starfire and
Teen
that was a
Titans,
good
huh?
episode.
Why are we talking
Yeah,
about
my
children's
6-year-old
shows for
loved it.
Yeah.
Wait,
it's-
was the Teen Titans show not? Did you not like the Teen Titans original show?
I didn't watch it. I'm not a child.
I'm sorry. This is
I was a child. Wait, how old are y'all?
How old are you? How
I'm
old are you?
32.
41 years old.
Yeah, it was on when we were kids.
I'm 11D1.
You're
What
a
are you
decade
talking
younger
about?
than him.
That's what I'm
Wick
saying.
looks like fucking Merlin right now, and you think he was watching Teen Titans as a kid? Come on.
Teen Titans was
Yeah.
on when we were kids. It
To
came
be
out
fair,
when we were
Merlin
kids.
ages backwards.
Can I-
No,
Is
I
Teen
wanna-
Wick was
Titan-
watching X-Men.
Wick's
This
teen
is-
Titan is named Mario Lopez, okay? That's who was a teen when he was a teen.
X-Men was a very woke show, and it was
X-Men was a
very
very
good.
woke show.
$5 and we got
Yeah, but it
5
wasn't
minutes
good.
on my
X-Men is
goal
apparently
here.
about
Based
We
on
got
it
5
being
minutes on my
woke.
goal here, so get your super chats in now. That's why for $5 says we don't like shoehorning a foot into a shoe that doesn't fit, being met with here's an example of a foot that fit in a shoe over and over and over. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, so Socrates. So here's my thoughts on what you said about TNG, because one of the things I want to come in with is purely stating that science fiction was woke before woke was a thing.
Mhm.
They did challenge. They took the opportunity to change one thing about society or technology, some law had changed, and then they would talk about what
I
happened.
hate to
right?
interrupt you, Rabid.
But- okay. Yep.
Have you read old sci-fi?
Yeah.
Literally, a lot of the stories are women were only allowed into. Look, there's a reason that NASA, when they were wanting to have female astronauts, that the wives of the astronauts currently were so against it, is because sci-fi back in that day, I'm talking like 50s, 60s, 70s, right, had made it a whole trope that women would go up into space only because to be basically sex slaves, right?
Well, wait. Okay, Wick. So the thing is, if you look at not TNG but original series, Uhura.
I'm talking 60s,
wait.
70s, 50s.
Wait,
right?
Uhura was I think one of, if not the first, like, if not even black women, but black people who were like in a TV show. She's on the bridge of the Star Trek. She's not the secretary, whatever. She's an officer on the bridge. Her and Shatner had the first interracial kiss. That's like, you know, at the time, interracial relationships were considered
pretty
like
woke to me.
a taboo thing. It's pretty like so that was
What's your
woke,
total at, Wick?
not just
What
in
are you at?
universe, but in America.
Yep. Okay,
Right.
let me finish my point. Because that's true, but there.
How many you
there-
got, Wick? What are you at for your total? You got 3 minutes left.
It's like I wasn't even talking. Fuck!
Yeah,
I need
true.
three more $5
Trying to make
super
this
chats.
man make money.
All
Three
right.
more
How dare I?
$5 super chats. Or actually, no, only 2 more because I'm counting the one that Keto Burrito gave me, right? All the $6 he gave me and the $2, right? So 2 more. So just $10 more. If we can get that, we get it. And $5 from That's Way to say generic super chat text. $5 from another new account to say here's $5 for the hell of it. So Para, if playthroughs aren't out yet, you're wrong, by the way. How do you know the game isn't preachy when you're spurging? Thank you for the $5. But again, this isn't the Book of Grudges Parallax stream. We can set something up, and you guys can. You know what? If you want to argue with him in super chats, by all means, keep doing it. Right? But yeah,
At $2 to $5 a pop.
yeah. Go ahead,
So-
Rapid. Finish.
Thank you. So the next generation wasn't good because it had those social messages in it. It was good writing that had social messages in it, and because of that, the end product was of value for cultural change because of that. But to go in, that was the mission of the author, of the original creator himself. He's been that, like you said, from the start, from the original series, right? Someone who would go in and say, go to C.S. Lewis's Narnia and say, hey, let's make this into like an atheist kind of series, right? It'd be like, no, that dude was religious to the core, and it's baked right into the core of the story. And you just could not honor the author's intentions without changing it dramatically, or without changing it dramatically to accomplish what your goal was as someone coming later. And last thing, I think when you look at these stories and you look at these changes, those are drastic changes, but even the minor ones in service of some sort of woke or activist agenda. If I was an editor and I read, okay, well, Sally kisses Susie, and then like that's the last time anything happens between them, and I would go back to the author and I'd be like, why did Sally kiss Susie? If she was like, well, because I really wanted to have a lesbian character in my story and I only had the one beat to demonstrate that, and so I did that, I'd be like, no, that's gone, because it's not in service of the story. It's going to create a false expectation in the reader that something's going to happen later, and it's not good storytelling, and it would be gone.
It's just bad writing. But that's not the wokeness. Isn't the problem there? It's the bad writing. Like
Wait, so can I
wokeness
respond
is
to that?
what pushes the bad writing in that case, right?
So just
think so.
tackling those in order. So when it comes to Star Trek, I think we can fine tune what you said. I basically agree with you, but with Star Trek, it wasn't the wokeness wasn't put in there because it was like, oh, our audience wants this. It was put in there because that was the worldview, and it was a form of advocacy. It was trying to push a worldview, but it was good writing. But it wasn't added to be filler. It wasn't added to be something that would make up for lack of other qualities.
100%.
Right.
It was baked in from the start, and that's why it did conflict with the storytelling.
Yeah, but if you do
added
something
to
like
the story, it wasn't just inserted in there
Also-
for the sake of monetary value and representation. That's the point.
I might take a huge L here, right? Because I'm not like a super Trekkie. Okay, so maybe,
Oh, wow.
maybe I'll take a huge L.
that is a huge L.
Fair enough.
You start with a W so that you can stomach the L in a moment.
Agreed. Started with a W.
But here's the deal. Okay, I think that Star Trek wasn't written in order to push these things. It was written because they wanted to tell a story in space about the various conflicts that might arise and the exploration and how that would work. I don't think they decided we want to make sure that we combat racism and sexism in our
which is the opposite of what
Well,
Wombat just said, by the way.
It's been social
you're talking about
commentary
conflict.
from the very start.
Yeah.
Conflict has two sides, and that makes polarization. And the society that we live in right now is overly polarized, and we are looking for which side is which. When the minute somebody walked into Star Wars Episode 8, they were looking for the woke messages. They were looking for the polarization. They were looking for the right-wing message. They were looking for the left-wing message. They were looking for all of this stuff that they wanted. And if you couldn't find it yourself because you didn't pick up on the subtext, you just went to YouTube and had a guy with a funny accent scream the hate, tell you what to hate.
Sorry, Avatar. So here's the thing.
Oh,
dude.
Dev, thank you, Dev. Short Fat Otaku, thank you for the Raiders on YouTube. I appreciate you. We have just reached our YouTube goal, gang. Let me read you these super chats because I want to celebrate this. We have reached our Halloween extravaganza goal, so we will be having a costume stream. Halloween, hooray. $5 from Parallax. My statement was that we don't know if it's preachy, and they aren't out. I looked for them. $5 from Zetsway to say, I carry you all to the costume stream. And then $5 more from Zetsway says, I want to win this right by the little YouTube bow and arrow target thing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Welcome, viewers. Gang, we are doing a show about wokeness, apparently. Dragon Age Veilguard is really bad. The writings and screenshots I've seen are really bad.
don't know that.
Some people, us Parallax, take issue with my statement here. But that's what we're talking about. Welcome in. Come on, let's go. Okay. Tuna,
Parallax,
Yeah.
from even the previews that we had months ago, you had good warning that this was going to be slop. It's not about is it woke or not. We know that it's fucking Marvel core. He's right behind me, isn't he? Style fucking writing. It's trying to be funny and jovial, and people were trying to defend it by saying, well, if, they're trying to make it funny, they're trying to make put the brand in a different direction. You don't have to ask the question of whether it's woke to defend whether or not it has bad writing. It has bad writing. Everything that you've seen has been bad. Nothing you've seen's been good. That's enough. You would think that they'd put their best foot forward if they had any best foot to put forward.
If the narrative that people, and I'm not even, like, you could be right, but if the narrative that people are trying to push is that the writing is bad, wouldn't they only, like, put out shit that's bad? Like, why would they put out, like, examples of the good writing?
Yeah, but we're using, like, things like the promo team of the game have put out, right? Tuna here is referring to the previews that the game developers have showcased.
The 22 minutes
the developers
of
and the
gameplay that they
studio,
signed off for people to see.
is
slop.
And the studio themselves
I don't think it was
have
that bad.
literally come out and announced what the story is going to be focused on. And it's just not what I thought was going to be the focus of the story. And me and Wick have had this conversation like last month, like months ago when they started releasing trailers. Like, Wick was like, does this really give you a Dragon Age vibe? It doesn't feel like Dragon Age to me. Like, we were already talking about how not interesting it looked months ago.
What's the focus of the story?
Dragon Age should be about categorizing something as to either kill or have sex with, and then pursuing that with all due haste.
Or both.
In a fantasy, in a dark fantasy environment.
Yes, but order matters.
Order matters. Order definitely matters.
But
Right.
here's the deal, right? Like, I think that I haven't played the game, right? I haven't sat down with it, and the mechanics could be great. I don't know. But when we talk about an RPG, the story will affect my enjoyment of the game. You can have a mechanically tight, interesting game, but the story is slop, and in an RPG, that's a deal breaker.
It matters.
That's a deal breaker.
Because it's all about the narrative. And this is BioWare. Their reputation, or what their reputation was based on, was them telling very good narrative-driven stories. That's what their studio is known for. Storytelling. So, like, in the trailers and based on their interviews and what they basically presented to the public to promote their game, none of that stuff interested me.
Yeah, let me just ask you, Socrates, have you played Dragon Age?
So I got Dragon Age 2, and I had the same issue that I had with like Neverwinter Nights, where I just don't like that weird middle ground between turn-based and real-time like combat, where it's like it's like the dice rolls on like a little timer. And I could not get into that.
And I can't ask my follow-up question, unfortunately.
Ask it.
Well, my question would have been, if you've played the other games and you've seen the trailers for Veilguard, do these look like they should be the same series, the same game? And I think anyone looking at this, no. Veilguard is an entirely different direction, not just in art style, but also apparently in narrative and in how they tell the story. And that's a problem for me.
Why is that a problem for you, Wick? So this is okay. Let me give a little context, and then let me have you answer.
Dragon Age, okay, not something else.
Okay.
Fable. It looks like Fable, to be honest.
This is my issue with this entire. Okay, to me, this is like maybe this sounds harsh, but this feels like an entitled consumer problem. You know what game I've been playing recently? That's really fucking good? You know what game? Diablo 2. Diablo 2 is really fucking good. You know what other game I've been playing recently that's really good? Oblivion. You know what other game I've been playing recently that's really fucking good? Fallout New Vegas. these games still exist in the same way that
That's not a
all
good
the original
thing.
Star Wars
Wait,
movies
that's
still
not doing
exist.
what you think it's doing for you. That's proving their
Yeah,
point.
it's not.
Well,
Yeah.
So
okay,
basically, you're
that's-
saying good games don't come out. Got it.
no,
Great.
Yeah.
That's a
I'm
good.
saying
that's a
this is-
great set of circumstances for us to be in. Is to have to rely on 15-year-old games.
Parallax,
Yes,
parallax.
If you want
Parallax.
to play Dragon Age, play the Dragon Age that you like. If you don't want them to go in a new direction, you're the one who's making these games suck. Because if you want to play the same game
victim
again,
blaming, bro.
more, I mean,
That doesn't make any
you're-
sense. That doesn't make any
Okay,
sense.
no,
You're in a
I see what he's
consumer
saying.
market
Victim,
that
okay.
has
But
a
I have a
target
counter.
audience.
Hold on. I see what he's saying, but my response to that would be, yes, exploring new concepts within that setting, exploring
if they're done
new
well,
directions
obviously.
within that set. Yeah, this is just assuming they're done well within that setting. I'm fine with. My problem with this is the presentation of the setting fundamentally
Yes.
differs from core concepts that I expect out of a Dragon Age game. Like you said, right? If suddenly Zetsway was here earlier, and I think he made this perfectly clear, right? If suddenly you're playing the new Dragon Age comes out and it's set in 1950s style, not totally not America, where you have businessmen and there's this turf war within corporations and things like that, and you just put Dragon Age on it, and you expect me to
Sounds like
enjoy
some
that?
cringe steampunk bullshit to me.
Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah,
wait,
so-
this isn't what I signed up for. This isn't anything like I want.
Yeah.
If it's going to be Dragon Age, it needs to check certain boxes. Gritty, dark fantasy, and Veilguard
Yeah.
just
Wait.
doesn't from the presentation. But
I
go
agree with
It would
that
literally be
concept.
called a bait and switch if it was any other product.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I
and
agree
But
with
you've
that.
only
let's
seen
be
the
honest.
advertisement. How can you be bait and switched if you've only seen the ad and you haven't? Do you see what I'm saying? How could that be a bait and switch?
Because you have like
Are you-
3 or
are you
4
saying-
installments in the franchise
Yeah.
that follow a specific structure, that
You
have a
follow
specific
structure,
Yeah.
a specific narrative, a specific tone.
history.
So what do you
everything.
mean?
So are
Of
you
course-
saying that-
Of course,
that
you
you were-
can make a
Does the
determination on whether or not something appeals to you
Mm-hmm.
based on trailers.
Does the
They
existence of
released
non-binary characters
multiple
make sense?
trailers. They released multiple trailers, right? Also, we know how this game came into development. It took them 10 years, and the direction of the game changed 3 or 4 times because the director changed 3 or 4 times. Dragon
What is
Age, the Veilguard, was originally supposed to be called the Dreadwolf, and it changed 3 times, and what we have now is what we have.
Well, that's a
None
good
of this is
situation.
wokeness. Like, none of this has anything to do with wokeness.
What are you talking about,
argument
man?
the argument
argument-
is that wokeness from the game developers caused a lot of the issues that I personally have with the game. Now, whether that's true or not
Yeah.
is something we're exploring within this topic, right? But
Yeah.
that is the topic at hand. $5 from Haunting in Dev's Waiting Room to say, I think Veilguard could be fixed with enough of a concentrated modding effort. Eventually, it will become Space Marine 2,
Yeah.
or issue.
So
I don't
wokeness
know about
causes
Space
art
Marine
style
2.
change.
Tuna.
That was,
go
that
ahead.
was one of your complaints. It was the art style
Whoa.
change.
Style
Did
is
wokeness cause
huge
that?
deal for me, yes.
Yeah,
Can I
did
tell you-
wokeness cause that?
Whoa.
Yes.
Can I?
Yes. They wanted to take away a lot of the gritty, edgy nature of it and paint it in a more
That's a bold
calm,
assumption.
tone setting, right? I can't tell you that it was the only cause of it, right? But this tends to be a trend within a certain art direction style. We see this in the new Dungeons and Dragons as well, with a lot of the new art receiving criticism for its more homey tone, which is less gritty, less hard fantasy. But go ahead, Tuna, give us what you got.
Okay. I think that more and more games especially, but movies as well, we are not friendly to the idea of treating a built world like it's a world. And we talk about like a future release as if it doesn't shit on the previous world. But I do think that there is like a diegetic quality to a well-established world, this like RPG thing. You have to kind of treat it like it's a world. And when a new chapter of that world comes out and it has facts inside of that sequel that debase the world building of the previous builds, it does actually make the previous game worse. It changes the way that people engage. It means that people who are fans of, let's say, you could go fans of Fallout. If we had a Fallout that came out tomorrow, and it just turns out somewhere in the world there is a sort of like Wakanda style paradise where everybody has beautiful, like great technology and beautiful grass, and they're all black and it seems shoehorned in, people would have reason to be like, this just doesn't fit the vibe. It doesn't fit the aesthetic. It makes the rest of the game
cool,
seem
honestly.
silly.
Maybe they had some cool
It
vaults
sounds
over
cool,
there.
but it seems antithetical to the
Tuna,
concept that there was a nuclear war.
Sure.
And it seems shoehorned. So it changes pivotal understandings of the previous games that makes returning to them and thinking of the world in general less enjoyable, less realistic, less encouraging of deep reading. And this is what I think actually causes the stupid woke conversation, because I do think accusing things of being bad because they're woke, it's an accusation that is guilty of itself. It is this idea that that thing is bad because of its politics. Your argument is bad because of its politics. It's the idea that politics is the thing that we're supposed to be, that's the register we're supposed to engage with. You are, as someone said before, watching YouTube videos trying to figure out what the hidden politics of the movie you saw are. People are talking about whether or not Daisy in the new Mario is like wearing a hijab that's been colored pink or something. I'm sorry. That's a retarded conversation for pigs. You have turned yourself into a pig so that you can have conversation with the other pigs. You just have to ignore all of that shit. Engage, and if something doesn't have depth, throw it to the wolves.
Yeah.
I got an example.
Let go of it.
I got an example. I heard this in a video, and I just wanted to like present it because I actually thought it was hilarious. What if, right, you're playing a Super Mario Brothers game, and we all know Mario is Italian. What if during your playthrough in the Mario game, he just stops and starts talking to you about being a Catholic?
Wait, about being
it
what?
would be out of place, right? About being a Catholic. Because
Catholic,
he's
okay.
Italian, right? About being a Catholic and how important his religion is to him, et cetera, right? What if a modern day Super Mario game that is known for being a platformer, et cetera, puzzles?
Now,
and shit
what
like
would
that.
be good?
What if that?
What would be good? What would be good? So that would be if he just like looked at the screen and said, "Mamma mia, I sure feel oppressed by the Protestant world order." That would be. But if he put his hands together,
I love it, the Virgin Mary.
He put his hands. The Virgin Mary. If he put his hands together and prayed, and then suddenly all of the water on the screen turned red, that, on the other hand, would be pretty dope.
Dude,
and that would be like, oh, he's
Catholic.
Mario. Well,
What
normal.
if he started like in the middle of a playthrough, like you go idle, right? You go idle, and then Mario just drops to his knees and he starts praying to the Mother Mary for a pizza, and then
I don't think that would matter.
Pizza
Ooh, I don't know if you can make that in 2024.
No,
It's so
wait a minute.
stereotypical.
That actually would be
Like,
not a big deal to
We're
me.
gonna make fun of Italian.
No,
Anti-woke.
I want to connect this to the thing before, and I didn't want to dunk too hard, but when someone mentioned Teen Titans, this is the thing that I feel weird about when we talk. So we're talking about Mario, we're talking about Teen Titans. We always talk about these things that are built to be approachable, and the end all be all of the property is supposed to be shallow engagement. You're not supposed to think about the world of Mario. In fact, I'm pretty sure the overall world of Mario is that all of the characters are actors. Something that is revealed inside of the recent Peach game is that everybody is actually acting out the game that you were playing.
So it's like a Truman Show.
Yeah,
It's not the
exactly.
panopticon world that we live in.
And that's like a way of saying, don't think too hard about it. It's not a real world. The real world is like hidden from you if there is one at all. But when people talk about that and they're like, "Oh, isn't it great? This is a great place for politics." I just think that that's the worst place for politics because it's a flattening of politics and consensus. And I don't think it's always wokeness. Sometimes it's vanity. There's a way that people design things sometimes where they explain. So the midichlorians are an example of this. If we're going to use Star Wars, is you explain underlying things that only the most curious people have the patience for, in a way
It means
that
autistic
the curious.
people, but go ahead.
Well, you could say autistic, but also you explained it in a way that it's understandable by people that don't have the patience. So you piss off the autists, you have the children bored to fucking tears, and now the world has been all because, well, I can't have people missing the potted plant in the corner of the room. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on the dramatic music and zoom in on it for like 30 seconds at the end of the scene. That is low content. That's bad for us. But it's wokeness is contained inside of it.
I think a theme with a lot of the criticism that quote unquote the woke content gets is the lack of subtlety. Right?
Yes.
I think
for sure.
That
That's
makes
the laziness aspect.
a huge issue, right? The lack of subtlety isn't just a problem with woke stuff as well, though. This transcends that. No one wants to be, and I said this before, preached to in their private.
Preached at. No, people like being preached to sometimes, but preached at. It's a very different thing.
Yeah.
No, I get what you mean.
Well, and
Like,
if you look at, say,
as soon as the intended audience of a product feels that they're being preached at, it turns them off. And I think that a lot of modern products are tending to preach at people, and I think one of the reasons they do that is because it's being directed from above, right? Like,
it's
people
the intention.
want to insert ideological goals into their media, and that's an issue for me.
yeah, like that's like when they
I-
take Chani and they turn her into a Mary Sue that is mad at Muad'Dib for some reason, like the entire time, all throughout the second one.
They made her
she
an
winds up
anti-Mary Sue.
so angry. It changes the plot completely, and it's just counter to everything that was happening. Like, it was a beautiful love story. She had her own strength that did not have to arise in this antagonistic view. It's a really tragic story when you get to the end of it, right? And you know what? And just real quick, my biggest criticism of that was what I just said, but my response, and because I think it is based in wokeness and trying to turn her into the next big Mary Sue, my response was, I'm disappointed in what this is doing in the moment. I'm going to wait and see if they put out another movie, what the payoff is on this. Because if I don't get something good for this, or for like Aaliyah still being in the womb at the end of the second movie, I'm going to be pissed at that point. But I'm already upset that they've messed with me. I'm just willing to give Villeneuve a movie to show why. And if he can't, then the wheels come off this wagon.
Yeah. So the term Mary Sue is not, I think, being applied there correctly. That's Mary Sue is like someone who can do no wrong and is like just way too good at everything and everyone likes her. Like,
Yep,
she makes
she's
herself
both a Mary
almost
Sue
like a
and
villain.
she's super antagonistic.
Well, so
Ray is a Mary Sue.
she's less of a Mary Sue in the movie than she is in the books. In the books, she's a Sayadina. She's like a critical person. She's like the daughter of the biggest leader of the Fremen, whatever. But the reason that Villeneuve did that is because he wants to point out for people who may not be getting it that this is a fucked up story, and Paul Muad'Dib is the worst thing that's ever happened to the Fremen. So
Is he, though?
yes, or that's the point of the
Is he?
book. Yeah, I mean, I've read the first two
He
books.
saves
I'm partway
humanity.
through the third. Sure, but the worst thing for the
I've
Fremen.
read every book right to the end.
But the worst thing for the Fremen, that's the point. Maybe disagree, death of the author, that's fine, right? But that's the point of the story, is that you should be very wary of charismatic leaders. So while there's all this music swelling, oh my God, we're going to paradise, wee! Villeneuve is saying, hey, there's this person who will not be listened to. That's part of the story, but for the audience to understand, there's another perspective to this, that things are actually really fucked up. And it's really understandable that people react extremely negatively to that. Maybe there's some good reasons, because maybe he fucked up some of the things that were good about her in the original of the way that she reacted. But there's also some really bad reasons that people don't like it when everyone is excited, everyone is being led to paradise, we're going on a jihad, this is awesome, and someone is like, no, this is really bad. This is awful. They're like, hey, we're having a good time. Why are you trying to fuck with us? Nobody likes that. But sometimes they don't like it because they're actually like pieces of shit.
So book 2, there's something to what you say, because book 2, he specifically comes out and says that the whole point is to deconstruct Paul and to make the criticisms that you're making now. But Villeneuve, in order to try and reinforce that, is completely destroying the storyline and the original intent between
it'll be
Paul
tough to
and
reconnect
Channy.
some-
And I think
yeah.
it was,
I think a good
I think it was an
example-
unnecessary
I think
sacrifice.
a better example,
Maybe,
right? A
yeah.
better example of a story where you have the original story and it's one thing, and then someone wants to really stress politics in it, and it becomes something else. Starship Troopers. Okay. The book Starship Troopers was an interesting discourse, right, on what duty means, concepts of duty, honor, loyalty, in some of these.
And it's a satire of fascism.
The book was
Well-
not. The movie was.
The movie was, yeah.
And that's the issue that a lot of people have with the movie, is they took a story that was giving one message, giving one thing, and because they wanted to turn it into their own little pet thing, they decided to make it into a satire of fascism, which
Do
fair
people
enough.
really not like Starship Troopers? I feel
The
like everyone
movie?
likes that movie. Yeah, the movie.
I think that people tend to
Really?
like it, and
Huh.
this is why I think that people like it versus so people will be critical of the read that it is merely a satire of fascism, but it's actually a very, whether you're far right, far left, or in the center, you can like Starship Troopers because it doesn't try to change details of the world in order to fit into that satire. It actually does contain some things inside of it where it's like, yes, we are actually just all going to go extinct if we don't take serious this
It's
threat. We are
arguably
going to die.
pro-fashion. Or pro-fascist, right? Because it's got Neil Patrick Harris in his SS looking whatever, but he's the good. There's never any in-universe there's things that are like, oh, this made me the man I am today, and he's missing 2 legs and an arm, right? And that's kind of like, oh, this is
It's
fucked
I
up.
just hated it because
But-
it became a teen romance story, honestly.
Sure.
That's why I hated the movie.
Okay.
Nothing like that's
fair.
in the book. That's why I hated the movie. I'm not going to lie. Some of the follow-on movies, if you guys know, there's
I
more
have
than
not
one
seen-
Starship
no.
Trooper movie.
They're
You've never
pretty.
seen the other Starship Trooper
Are they
movies?
good? Are they
Watch
actually
it.
good?
In a bad way, yeah. They're so bad. It really hones in on the campiness, but yes, I enjoyed them, right? But the original movie, I was left disappointed. I was left, I didn't like it at all because I had read the book. I had loved the book. It was a great story, and I went in expecting one thing, and I got something else in it. Ugh.
Can I ask two
Yeah, please go
questions
ahead.
to the class? Do you guys think that an interesting and meaningful story can be written that challenges the reader's morality or sense of morals?
Yes.
Obviously.
I would say so,
Of
yeah.
course.
Okay. Is a story that does that inherently woke?
No.
No.
I would say yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Hold on.
Would
let me
you say
explain-
that-
Elaborate on your
okay,
answer.
sorry.
I'm curious
Yeah,
as to why
yeah.
you think it would be inherently woke.
Yeah, because I don't think
So-
so, but yeah. go ahead.
Yeah, so first of all, we have to recognize that the way we're using woke here is there's a term for this when a concept becomes so disfigured that it could mean something specific. It might mean almost anything.
Okay, but what paradigm are you speaking from when you say woke?
So when I'm saying that, I'm talking more like OG woke, which is like, hey, you need to be more aware of how the world is in an uncomfortable way than you currently are. That's the kind of original meaning of the term woke. You need
Even
to
within that meaning, I think
wake
you're
up,
wrong, though.
right?
Even using that.
Yeah, even that sentence implies that
definition.
you're forcing someone to see,
Yeah.
like, there's a huge difference between forcing a moral view on a viewer or a reader versus providing some sort of narrative that challenges their view of morality on their own.
So okay,
So
okay,
just
wait,
real
wait,
quick,
I
one
think
real
I
quick
can
question.
parse that.
Do you think Birth of a Nation is a woke movie?
I haven't seen it. but that's the like
Okay,
white
Birth of the Nation
supremacist one, right?
It's a famous movie, right?
It's a famously woke movie.
Yeah.
Famously
Is
woke.
it?
It will.
Just from
It will challenge your morals and concepts.
It says,
I think there's
it says, as a WASP, you need to stick with your WASPs and defend your nation from those Catholics and those blacks. That is
And on a
woke, but
horse.
from a different angle.
Yeah.
And on a horse. But that is what it is. It is a I would call it ham-fisted. My issue with Birth of the Nations, actually, it's a very
It's not subtle
structuralist.
enough.
It's
They should have been more subtle.
It's a bad story. They
nuance.
tried to force the wokeness into it, and it really.
If the
it
writing was just a bit
insists on
better.
itself.
So I think
I
can
think there's a
parse.
huge difference between giving a consumer or a viewer or a reader something that is supposed to be artistic, right? And that art that you give them challenges their sense of morality based on their own perception versus you creating something where there is some hidden message inside the content that tells the viewer or the listener or the reader that they are supposed to think a specific way, right? Your morals are bad and you need to think this way. It's completely different than giving someone a story where their morality is challenged on their own. Like, one seems authentic and one is very preachy.
Well, wait. Okay. Yes. So I think that's like a critical piece of this to look at. So this idea of challenging versus forcing. So one might be, hey, here's a thing that you may not have considered, or like an area of the world that you may not have examined or thought deeply about. You really need to think deeply about this. I'm kind of saying it in a way that sounds like forcing, but that would be more like challenging for you to come up. What are your thoughts about this? Think about this thing. Come to some conclusion. You really need to examine this. Versus, if you don't come to this conclusion, then you're a bad person, right? That would be right. The other thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like for example, there are people who watched the Avengers Endgame and walked away from that movie with the belief that Thanos was right.
Thanos was a fucking bitch. Let me just say it. He's like,
Hashtag Thanos did nothing wrong.
there's too many people. Let me reduce the number of people
It's
by
totally
50%.
okay. Totally okay.
There's going to be too many people in like 20 years. Like, what the fuck is this?
Here's another thing that I've seen, a discourse I've seen recently. You guys familiar? Of course you are. You're all nerds, and most of you are white.
Hey.
Yeah, most of you. I said most. Okay.
I'm assuming.
Have you guys seen Birth of a Nation recently?
You've seen.
Don't misidentify.
The Full Metal Alchemist. That's it. Sorry, I was brain farting.
Yep.
Yeah.
You guys seen it? Right.
Like
The
a bit.
discourse I've seen recently is that Scar was right. Are you guys familiar with who Scar is in the story?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Scarlett Johansson, is she in this one too?
Oh my God!
We're
Shut the
talking about
fuck
the
up.
Lion King.
Do it. Hey, literally, you're talking about weeb shit, and we know your audience. Give a quick summary. Anybody?
So Scar, the Ishvars, I don't know how you say their name, but the oppressed people, right? Scar was like their avenger. He'd go out and he'd try to get justice for people. I'm TLDRing it. It's been a while since I've seen the show, but a lot of the people are using like Scar was right because they've come to that conclusion through watching the show. I think Full Metal Alchemist is one of the few animes I enjoy, is because they did explore the concepts of oppression, the concepts of occupation, the concepts of these things, but they present it in such a way where you are not, as a viewer, aren't forced to conclusions in a very hard way, right? And you have
exactly the opposite to what
that can
Attack on
come
Titan
to
did.
different conclusions on whether Scar was a good guy or a bad guy. The story does not tell you this is a good guy or this is a bad guy. The story presents the person, presents their actions, adds context, and you, the viewer, are expected to either identify with or shun him.
You come to your own conclusions instead of the individual making the content telling you what you should think. It's completely different. It's more immersive to do it in the manner that Full Metal Alchemist did, where you just present a character who has a specific morality, specific beliefs, et cetera, and the content creator doesn't force down your throat or try and change your opinions, right, based on their own.
Yeah,
Right,
it's
they're
really
not
just
telling you
saying
that
as the Lion King with Scar and the hyenas.
Yes.
Different.
Scar was right in the Lion
They're
King
not
too.
telling you that the character is bad or good. They're not telling you that the character is bad or good based on their morality. They're just presenting the character and like the character's decisions and belief structure, and then you come to your own conclusions. I think doing it that way is more immersive versus, this character is bad and this is why, and if you think any other way, you're wrong. Like that's less immersive. That breaks immersion.
Okay, so here's an example that I think kind of challenges this perspective. Who's seen American History X or knows what that is?
Great film.
Right?
Raises
Love
hands.
that movie.
Yeah. Is American History
Really
X
great movie.
Is American History X woke? It doesn't give that feeling. It doesn't feel woke.
It depends.
Right? Like I think we would define it this way based on how we're defining things, but because there's only really one perspective that you're supposed to come away with, which is that you should step away from like hating other races of people and stuff like that, right? Being a Nazi is not
not
great.
necessarily based on like your morality. You come to that conclusion based on the main character's reality and how his character develops into changing the way that he thinks about a specific race. That's the difference.
Interesting. So it's all of the
Do you
preachiness
disagree,
is
Tuna? Hold on.
directed at him, but not the
making
viewer.
faces. Tuna's making
I mean,
faces.
That's not my take on it. Obviously,
You think it's pro-Nazi?
as noticed visually. So no, it's not even just that. I think that you when you're watching American History X, you can come out at the end having absolutely no connection to, because you were never a Nazi and you establish yourself and you firmly identify as being part of it's what people have called morally lucky on this platform, obviously.
Thank God
Which,
I never
if
had
you
to go through this corrective experience.
Now, I don't think that it's woke, but it's because I don't think that during the movie, the director looked deep into your soul and said, by the way, you might not identify as a Nazi, but you're not really that different from him now, are you? That would be woke. That would be like, I'm going to use Nazism, the symbol of almost universally agreed evil, to talk about how all white people are Nazis or all men are Nazis. That would be woke. That's it's using the narrative as a means. It's propaganda. That's what I think most people would agree is that it's you have to have this specific articulate change to your life. I am trying to make you change your life in this way. You can watch American History X and just be like, damn, white boy got his teeth stomped on. And you're just having a good time. But you're never going to step away and be like, wait a second, am I actually kind of a sicko? Like, if you think about it, and you can think about it, and you're probably supposed to think, wait a second, am I kind of a sicko for watching this Nazi get raped, watching this Nazi get curb stomped? Am I the black man get curb stomped? I supposed to this? It's a revenge narrative. Am I? Yeah. But you can easily revel in the revenge, or you can just completely enjoy the ride and be like, I love watching him get what he had coming.
Yeah, I think the strength of this movie is that it demystifies a lot of it. It really just gives it to you raw and shows almost just what a regular day in the life of a racist would be like at that level, right? And then all of the negative things that happen because of it. And you can look at it and be like, whoa, this isn't glamorous at all. It's not just head shaving and showering together and killing black people. There's some consequences to our actions, and it reinforces the mainstream narrative as opposed to challenging anything remotely close to it.
Well, so based on that, here's an updated definition for woke. It doesn't necessarily have to have lots of different ways that you can end up thinking about it. To not be woke, it has to not give you the feeling that it's pointing at you specifically as having a problem that needs to be fixed.
No, that's. I think that's what we're saying is the reason that it's not woke is
No,
because it's open to interpretation.
Well, no, I don't think it is. I don't think the conclusion or the messaging is open to interpretation, right? Like if you were,
I would say that it is. I would say that it is because they're giving you.
Are we talking
They're
about
giving
American
you
History
the
X here?
message.
American History X, if you come away with that thinking maybe the Nazis are right, you got bigger problems. I don't know what to tell you.
No,
Okay?
okay, listen. Okay, you phrase it that way, and that's like the way that a person could dismissively in a tweet thread. But part of the in my opinion, what you're supposed to take away from American History X, the thing that the 17-year-olds who are drawing like Nazis with hanging from Nazis on fire and saying follow your leader, the thing that they're not willing to take out, that shallow interpretation, but there is something deeper under there. The thing they're not willing to take, it's bad to cheer on watching a person get raped. It's bad to watch someone be tortured and feel good in your soul. And maybe you've got a little bit of a Nazi in you, but most people don't watch that movie and think that. They watch it like Inglourious Bastards. They watch it relatively shallowly.
Well, I don't think it's quite as gleeful as Inglourious Bastards, but I think the core thing is that you don't necessarily have to identify as whatever the kind of corrective thing that's happening. You don't necessarily have to identify as that being targeted toward you.
Well,
people don't like being scolded. That's the biggest thing. People don't like being nagged. They don't like being scolded. That's ultimately. Is there any other emotion that comes away from it? When you think about being something woke.
Well, I think you're supposed to empathize with the younger brother.
Yeah, you're supposed to empathize
with the older.
Yeah. You're supposed to empathize because he is literally following in the footsteps of his brother that he idolized. And his brother has gone through a character arc where he realizes not necessarily that racism is bad, right? Because racism is bad. He sees people how everyone should see them, as humans, as equals, right? He doesn't think he's better than anyone just because of his skin color. He doesn't think he's superior just because of his skin color, right? And it takes him going through his character arc to come to that conclusion. And
okay, gang. We have not gone off topic exactly, but we have run the gamut on the discourse, I think. And I have to eat. I have to do other things.
Food is a crutch.
I know it is. I'm.
The body is weak.
Unfortunately addicted to food, in that I have to eat it or I'll die.
I've seen.
Here we go. Here we go.
Just eat culturally appropriate.
We had dinner together.
We did.
I'm not just calling him fat.
Me and Tuna karaoke together. Me and Socrates karaoke together. We
Oh,
are.
wow.
Shots are part of a balanced breakfast.
But here's the deal, gang. Here's the deal. Don't know if there's gonna be a show tomorrow, but on Thursday, Halloween stream, we got Mooncake coming confirmed. We got Fairy Tween coming confirmed. We got Julie Sadkick coming confirmed. They're all gonna be dressed up to the nines. It'll be fun. It'll be great. Tune in 6 p.m. Eastern on Halloween night, and then Friday, we're going to have a show on the State of the Race, our final State of the Race show.
State of the Race.
It'll be November 1st. Yes, State of the
Oh, the race. Oh, God.
Which race?
Okay.
Oh, boy.
You may have seen it. I don't know. You may know something like we're having.
But which race is the most presidential?
We were talking about American History X. So.
Oh,
Here's
shit. You guys just threw
okay,
off
let me
that
do
fucking
my
alley.
promo. Okay, goddamn.
Do your plug.
6 p.m. Eastern on Friday. We're gonna get a bunch of people on to give their final predictions. Okay, on stream, so we can make fun of them if they're wrong, or we can praise them if they're right. So regardless of who you want to win, we're gonna predict who is going to win on Friday, and we got some hot takes coming in. It'll be fun. Tune in 6 p.m. Eastern. It'll be great. If you enjoyed the show, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We do this kind of shit all the time. Today was a relaxed stream. I appreciate you all for coming in. Parallax, Tuna Chip, Waldo was earlier. Zetsway was earlier. Liberal Cuck Cluck was earlier. Rabid Wombat, Socrates, and Mando. Appreciate you all. We're going to say bye.
Appreciate
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Thanks all. Love you, Wick.
Thursday.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Wick.
Stay woke.
Damn.
Bye, Tuna's
Later,
mustache.
I waited all that time to be kind, and you're
Bye
just fucking-
bye.